Jerusalem at the dawn of the 12th century was a place where reality and mysticism were inextricably linked. In 1118, 9 French knights, led by Hugues de Payens, arrived in the Holy City and took solemn vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. But unlike other knightly orders that sought glory on the battlefield, these men were not in a hurry to join the fray. Their true objective was far more specialized. King Baldwin II granted them the southern wing of the Temple Mount, the hallowed site where the legendary Temple of Solomon once stood. It was here, shielded by profound silence and absolute secrecy, that their true mission began. For 9 long years, these 9 men accepted no new members into their ranks and were rarely seen leaving the grounds of the Mount. What could be sought for nearly a decade in the claustrophobic depths of those underground vaults? Official chronicles of the time remain suspiciously brief, providing almost no details of their daily activities. However, modern archaeological excavations have confirmed the existence of complex tunnels and chambers carved specifically during that period. The Templars were not merely monks in prayer, they were the world's first archaeologist mystics. They were searching for the very foundations of faith, relics of such immense power they could reshape the world. The Ark of the Covenant, the original stone tablets of the law, or ancient scrolls granting esoteric power over the minds of men. When Hugues de Payens finally returned to Europe in 1128, he was no longer a poor, obscure knight. The order instantly received official recognition from the Pope and was granted extraordinary privileges: total exemption from taxes and complete immunity from secular laws. Such a political and spiritual price is paid only for something truly incredible. The Templars had found what they were looking for, and this discovery became both their greatest strength and their ultimate curse. The secret had been pulled from the darkness of centuries. But as the geopolitical tide shifted, it could not remain in Jerusalem forever. As dark clouds gathered over the holy city and the shadow of the Mamluk armies approached, the knights realized they had to find a more secure, more strategic refuge for their treasure. Their eyes turned north toward Akko, the impregnable coastal fortress where the stone walls met the sea. The year is 1291. The Christian presence in the Holy Land is breathing its last. Jerusalem has already been lost, and the shadows of the Mamluk Sultanate are stretching across the Levant. In the heart of the remaining Templar strongholds, a sense of urgency has replaced the once steady prayers. Guillaume de Beaujeu, the Grand Master of the Order, receives intelligence that the city of Akko is the next and final target of Sultan al-Ashraf Khalil. But the Master's greatest fear is not the loss of a fortress, but the discovery of what lies hidden in its deepest vaults. The treasures and documents brought from the Temple Mount years ago cannot be allowed to fall into enemy hands. Under the cover of a moonless night, de Beaujeu organizes a secret convoy. This was not a standard military transport. The guards were chosen from the inner circle, brothers who had taken an additional oath of silence unto death. The cargo was packed into heavy, iron-bound chests, disguised as common grain and armory supplies, to avoid inciting panic among the retreating populace. As the wagons creaked through the narrow, torch-lit mountain passes toward the coast, the knights knew that this was no longer a war for land. It was a race against time to deliver the great secret to the sea. The destination was Akko, the last invincible bastion on the Mediterranean, where the Templars believed their fleet would provide the only path to safety. Little did they know that the sea, which promised escape, would soon become their most formidable cage. As the secret convoy entered the massive gates of Akko, a grim realization settled over the Knights. The city was no longer just a fortress. It was a pressure cooker of panic and desperation. The Mamluk siege engines were already being assembled on the hills outside, their rhythmic pounding echoing against the stone walls. Guillaume de Beaujeu's plan was simple: reach the harbor, load the iron-bound chests onto the fastest Templar galleys, and set sail for Cyprus. But nature and war had other plans. A freak spring storm began to lash the coast, turning the Mediterranean into a wall of white water and jagged waves. No ship, not even the legendary Templar fleet, could safely dock. The harbor, which was supposed to be their gateway to freedom, was now a chaotic graveyard of splintered wood and broken hulls. With the Mamluks closing in and the sea blocking their exit, the Grand Master was forced to make a radical decision. The great legacy could not be lost at sea, nor could it be allowed to fall into the hands of the Sultan. In the dead of night, while the city walls groaned under the weight of the siege, a small group of knights was dispatched to the deepest levels of the Templar tunnels. These labyrinthine corridors carved deep into the bedrock offered a final, desperate hiding place. The chests were moved into a secluded chamber, known only to a few, and the entrance was sealed with heavy masonry. To ensure the secret died with them, the tunnels were filled with rubble and soil, a process of forced conservation that would protect the artifacts for centuries, long after the last knight had fallen on the ramparts. By the end of the 13th century, Akko had become a marvel of medieval engineering, a city divided between the sun-drenched surface and a sprawling, secret world below. Above, the city was protected by a double line of massive stone walls, punctuated by towers that seemed to defy the very idea of conquest. It was the last capital of the Crusader kingdom, a vibrant, chaotic melting pot of knights, merchants, and spies from across the known world. But for the Knights Templar, the true strength of Akko lay beneath the feet of its citizens. The order had constructed a sophisticated network of tunnels that served as the city's hidden nervous system. The most famous of these was the Templar Tunnel, a 350-meter passage connecting the main fortress in the west to the strategic harbor in the east. This wasn't just a walkway, it was a high-security corridor designed for the rapid, invisible movement of troops and, more importantly, the transport of the Order's most sensitive assets. Carved directly into the natural Kurkar Ridge, the tunnels were reinforced with heavy stone arches, capable of withstanding the weight of the massive citadels above. These passages were guarded by heavy iron grates and secret doorways that could be deadlocked at a moment's notice. As the Mamluk forces began their final assault on the surface, this subterranean maze became the last line of defense and the ultimate sanctuary for a secret that was never meant to be found. The city above was doomed, but the world below was designed to endure, waiting for a discovery that would take 7 centuries to arrive.